Welcome to the Marketing Behind Rapid Growth, the podcast where we explore the strategies, decisions, and growth engines behind some of the world's most successful technology companies. Today, we're talking about Pinterest. Picture this. It's the winter of 2009. A former Google employee named Ben Silbermann sends out an email to family and friends announcing his new startup. The silence that follows is almost total. Weeks turn into months. The platform has a few thousand accounts. Most of them are inactive. It's a beautifully designed room and nobody's home. Here's the strange part of this story. Pinterest didn't fix this problem by rewriting code. It didn't pivot the idea. It didn't chase a new feature to save itself. It went and built an audience, by hand, one relationship at a time. And that decision, to treat marketing as the engine of product market fit rather than an afterthought to it, is why we're telling this story today. Let's start at the beginning. Before Pinterest, there was Tote, a mobile shopping app built by Silbermann and his co-founders Evan Sharp and Paul Sciarra. Tote let you browse products from your phone. It never caught on. Mobile shopping just wasn't a habit yet in that era, but buried inside Tote's failure was a signal. Users weren't just browsing products, they were saving them, organizing them, coming back to specific images again and again, the way you dog-ear a page in a catalog. That behavior was the real insight. Not shopping, collecting. So the founders built a new product around that single human instinct, the desire to gather and arrange images of things you love. That product was Pinterest. Now, a great insight isn't the same as a great business. A beautifully designed collecting tool with no users is just a private sandbox, and that's exactly what Pinterest was for its first stretch of life. So let's talk about the market Pinterest was stepping into, because understanding the gap is what makes the strategy make sense. Rewind to around 2010. The internet was overwhelmingly text first. Google was busy organizing facts. Facebook was busy mapping who knew whom. Nobody had really digitized visual taste. Nobody had recreated that offline feeling of wandering through a store and stumbling onto something you didn't know you wanted. E-commerce at the time was excellent at logistics. If you knew exactly what you wanted, say a specific pair of black jeans, Amazon could get it to you fast. But what if you didn't know what you wanted yet? In the physical world, that's what malls were for. Window displays. Layouts designed to spark an idea you didn't walk in with. Online shopping had no equivalent. There was no browsing, only searching. Pinterest filled that gap. It gave people a visual vocabulary for taste, a way to say, "I like this," before they could ever type it into a search bar. That's the opportunity. Now here's where the product strategy gets interesting. When the founding team built the first version of Pinterest, they made an unusual call. Before anything else, it had to look exceptional. They tested dozens of layouts. Vertical grids, horizontal grids, side navigation, top navigation. They iterated relentlessly until Evan Sharp landed on the masonry grid, that cascading, uneven column of images that still defines Pinterest today. Why obsess over layout this much? Because of a simple truth about collections. People only show off a collection if the display flatters it. Think about a messy bookshelf versus a curated one. You don't invite guests to admire the messy one. If Pinterest's interface had been clunky, users would have quietly kept their boards to themselves. Instead, the founders refused to ship until the presentation earned pride of ownership. That aesthetic choice became Pinterest's first real differentiator. And here's the strategic layer underneath it. A feed that looked this good became something people wanted to share on other platforms. The product design itself became a marketing asset. Every share was an ad Pinterest didn't have to pay for. As Pinterest scaled, something bigger started to emerge. It stopped being just a digital scrapbook and became something closer to a search engine, a visual one. Here's the distinction that matters. Facebook had built a social graph, a map of relationships, of who's connected to whom. Pinterest was quietly building something different, a taste graph. Every single pin a user saved was a tiny act of human annotation. Multiply that by hundreds of millions of users, and you get an enormous curated map of interests and intentions. That realization justified serious investment in technology most consumer apps weren't touching yet, computer vision. In 2017, Pinterest launched Lens. Point your phone camera at a sofa, a pair of shoes, a plate of food, and Pinterest would surface visually similar items. Around the same time, the company built out rich pins, shop the look, and catalog integrations. The strategic significance here is worth sitting with. Pinterest was closing the loop between inspiration and purchase. It went from being a place where you dreamed about a future kitchen to a place where you could actually buy the tile for it. That loop, inspiration to intent to purchase, is what made Pinterest valuable to brands, and it's what laid the foundation for a genuinely lucrative advertising business. Now let's get to the part of the story that made all of this possible in the first place. The marketing strategy, and it starts with a paradox. Conventional startup wisdom says, remove friction. Get users to invite everyone they know. Grow fast, grow wide, grow loud. Pinterest did the opposite. The platform launched invite only. And then, deliberately, it kept invitations scarce. Think about what that does psychologically. When invitations are unlimited, people hand them out carelessly. When invitations are scarce, people treat them like currency. They think carefully about who gets one. That scarcity solved two problems simultaneously. First, it created genuine demand, an air of exclusivity around something most people hadn't even seen yet. Second, it preserved quality. The early users who got in were, by definition, people someone else had judged worth including. Those early power users became informal gatekeepers, shaping what kind of content flowed onto the platform from day one. The lesson underneath this is almost counterintuitive. The fastest route to a massive global network was to start narrow. Let pent-up demand carry the growth. But Silbermann didn't stop at controlling who got in. He also solved a much harder problem, the cold start problem. Anyone who's opened a brand new app to an empty feed knows this feeling. Nothing to look at, nothing to react to. It's the fastest way to lose a new user in their very first session. Pinterest engineered around this. Sign up through Facebook or Twitter, imported a user's existing social graph. And crucially, the platform pointed new users toward strong, established creators right away. That meant a brand new user's first session looked curated and rich, not blank. Instant gratification, minimal churn, a first impression that felt alive instead of empty. And there's one more layer to the marketing story, one that played out over years rather than months. While other social platforms became consumed by political arguments and performative anxiety, Pinterest positioned itself differently, as a calmer corner of the internet, a place to plan your own life rather than broadcast an opinion or perform for an audience. That wasn't just a nice brand story, it was a competitive moat. As advertisers grew increasingly nervous about brand safety, about where exactly their ads might show up, Pinterest's reputation for positivity became a genuine business advantage. So what does all of this add up to? What can operators actually take from Pinterest's story? 4 lessons stand out. First, scarcity can be a growth lever. Open doors don't automatically draw a crowd. By restricting access, Pinterest manufactured exclusivity. Perceived value rises as availability falls. A waitlist or an invite-only beta can generate more genuine buzz than an unrestricted, wide-open launch. Second, marketing shapes the product's data, not just its user count. By courting interior designers and DIY bloggers first, Pinterest ensured its foundational content was beautiful from day one. Early marketing doesn't just acquire users, it acquires a culture. Whoever you bring in first defines the experience for everyone who comes after. Third, optimize for intent, not identity. Traditional social platforms monetize who you are and who you know. Pinterest monetizes what you intend to do next. By recognizing that most users came to plan future purchases, it built an advertising ecosystem around genuine commercial intent rather than demographic guesswork. Fourth, treat SEO as a product feature, not a marketing afterthought. Pinterest became one of the most effective SEO engines on the web, and that wasn't luck. Structuring user-generated boards with clean, keyword-rich metadata let it dominate image search results. Discoverability built into the architecture beats discoverability bought through traffic. So where does that leave the story? Pinterest's rise from a stagnant, invite-only beta nobody responded to into a multi-billion-dollar visual discovery engine is a reminder that product excellence alone rarely wins. Silbermann and his team understood something deeper. The real value lived in the quality of the content and the intent behind the users. So they engineered both, deliberately, Through scarcity, through grassroots community building, through a relentless focus on intent over identity, they built a loop that compounds on itself. Inspiration drives curation, curation drives search dominance, and search dominance drives even more inspiration. The lesson for builders is this: the most powerful growth doesn't come from marketing chasing a finished product. It comes when marketing strategy sets the product's culture from the very beginning, and the product, in turn, carries the marketing forward on its own. This was the marketing behind rapid growth. See you in the next episode.